I want to say thanks to everybody for coming today to another ECHO Community Conversation event. Today's topic is community crime prevention and safety, featuring Tom Connolly. ECHO is a 50-year-old statewide nonprofit association established to support HOA board members and engaged homeowners. Our mission is to foster a better quality of life in community associations through education, advocacy, and connection. For today's event, we have a few housekeeping items. These are now shown on the screen. This slide was sent to all of the registered attendees as well. Please take a moment to review our housekeeping items. Today, we have a large audience. Over 200 people have registered, especially HOA board members. We will do our best to answer your questions, but may run out of time. At the prerogative of the presenter, he may answer questions during the presentation or only during the Q&A session, depending on the flow of the program. To try to answer as many of these questions as possible, I may answer a few of them myself in the Q&A feature. We will do our best to respond to your questions, to as many of your questions as possible. Please use the thumbs up voting in the Q&A feature to prioritize your questions during the Q&A session. Simply vote for your favorite question by using the thumbs up. You just click on the button and your vote is registered. Those questions with the most thumbs up votes will likely be chosen first. Also, please keep your questions general in nature and short. We may pass over some of the questions. Specific questions about your community are best asked of your attorney or another appropriate expert familiar with your specific situation. Please use the chat feature to report technical issues and to communicate directly with other participants in the community conversation. We do not monitor the chat feature for questions. Now, let me direct your attention to your monitors, where you will find our disclaimer. None of what is said during this seminar shall be construed as specific legal advice or expert advice from the speaker, sponsors, or ECHO. If you wish specific advice, we encourage you to contact your attorney or another suitable expert. The information we provide during this webinar is educational in nature and should not be relied upon for specific decision-making purposes. Thank you for that. This webinar and all of our events are made possible by the generous support of ECHO HOA professional service providers. Please join me in thanking today's premier sponsor, Heritage Bank of Commerce. Our Q&A sponsor today is Silver Creek Association Management, and our registration sponsors is Levy Erlinger and Company, LLP CPAs. We will now hear a few words from Lynell Soto of the Heritage Bank of Commerce. Lynell?
Thank you, Dave. Happy to be here today. Looking forward to this wonderful presentation, as I'm sure all our guests are. I'm Lionel Soto, Heritage Bank of Commerce. We have an HOA specialty banking group. And what that means is we have a group of people dedicated to serving your community. You'll see the slide up there. I'm not going to read it off. We offer all the services that you would need to run your day-to-day and even offer you fully insured CD investment options. Please give me a call if you need any help with your banking. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lynell. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the Heritage Bank of Commerce for all of their support over the years. Please support all ECHO professional members and especially our sponsors. They make our educational programming possible at little or no cost to you. And now I'd like to introduce today's speaker. Tom Connolly is a retired police captain from the Los Altos Police Department. He has over 30 years of experience in law enforcement and 15 years of experience in security consulting. Tom has also been a board member for his association and often consults other community associations providing training programs or acting as security consultants. Tom is also the vice president of the ECHO Board Members Club and has been a longtime supporter of ECHO programs. And I'm sure Tom will say a few words about the Board Members Club later. And I'll just turn it over now to Tom. Tom, please take it away. We appreciate your time here.
Hey, Dave, thank you. Lionel, thank you for sponsoring the event. We couldn't do it without you. And hi, everybody. Thanks for showing up today. As you know, our presentation today is entitled Community Crime Prevention, but it's more of a safety thing, which is through crime prevention, and what you as board members and community members can do to protect your community. A little bit about me. Dave did mention that I've been on 2 community association boards for a period of 10 years. I was president of one, vice president of another. And like most of you, you'll probably be nodding your heads. We had security issues at both, and they were very different at both, but we had security issues at both that we needed to address. So I hope that the presentation today is on topic and helpful for all of you in helping to secure your communities. Go to the next slide, Connor. So the question for all of you is, why is crime prevention important? And it's important for all of us because everybody wants to live in a safe and secure environment. To be free from fear of victimization, criminal activity, that kind of thing. And safety on Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, safety is number 2. So it's a priority for all of us in our lives, and especially in our communities. In addition, a safe community helps to foster a sense of community and a better quality of life. And also, it protects your investment in your probably largest investment that you make, your home. And so it preserves property values or even enhances property values if you have a historically and reputably safe community. Next. So what I want to do today, we're going to go through a process that I use with clients in doing security assessments and making recommendations to them. And it's not a difficult process. And I would say that most of you, after attending this seminar and reading the slide deck, it's a fairly involved slide deck, and with just 90 minutes, we're not going to be able to hit everything on the slide deck. So, but the 5-step process is actually, a fairly simple process to follow. So, as you see here, it helps ensure thorough and holistic assessment, and your assessment kind of guides the entire planning process or crime prevention process. And it helps prioritize investments in security-related measures. And this process memorialize the process for future boards or for yourself to use in the future, because as you'll see, part of this process will result in a continuing reassessment of the efficacy of your efforts. Connor. So here's the 5-step process that we're going to go through. Number 1, the first step you need to do is understand what the core problem areas are, what the crime issues are, and to understand some of the causal factors of those crime issues. Secondly, the second step is to evaluate and assess potential actions based on the first step. So once you've identified the situation, then you go to step 2, evaluating and assessing. Step 3 would be, based on those first 2 steps, is to develop a comprehensive plan of action for addressing the problem areas. Step 4 is obviously execute your plan, put the plan to work. And then step 5 is a kind of an ongoing evaluation and assessment process. And you'll see the arrows going between the steps, but you also see the big arrow on the right side that goes back up to step 1, because if your evaluation and assessment tells you, hey, some things worked, some things didn't, the things that didn't work, you want to go back up to step 1 and try to understand that situation and go through the process again. So, in this format, with the short amount of time we have, typically this would be like a 4-hour presentation. So what I want to do today is I kind of want to walk you all through a scenario at a fictitious community, and we'll be able to hit all of these steps, and hopefully you'll understand it a little better. So for our scenario today, our fictitious community, and I hope nobody actually lives in a community named Pleasant Shores, because that's what I named our community for today. So if you live in Pleasant Shores, this is a different Pleasant Shores community association. So Pleasant Shores, a little bit of background. Pleasant Shores is a 250 townhome community located in a residential area of a mid-sized city located somewhere in California. So the community, the layout of the community is there is a main driveway or street that enters off of two city arterials. There's a main street that goes through, and then there are 2 intersecting streets that most of the townhomes are located off of. So, and at the street entrances, there's no access controls or monitoring of traffic coming into or out of the community. And other than that, the community is surrounded by a 7-foot wooden fencing that is in good shape. It's not in any disrepair or anything. So that's our community. That's Pleasant Shores, and we're all board members now today of Pleasant Shores. We have 109 plus me. That's 110 board members. So I know it's going to get really ugly, huh? So anyway, let's go to the next step, Connor. So understanding the background issues and data analysis. So what are the security concerns? When and where are they occurring? The questions you ask are there on the slide deck. And I highly recommend that you will be getting a copy of the slide deck, and you save it or print it and refer to that. So in our make-believe fictitious community, the problem here is there are a number. And one of them is an increased presence of homelessness nearby. So there's some tents popping up in a local park that's across the street from one of the entrances, and homeless people and even other pedestrian traffic tend to walk through the community as a shortcut to get from one side to the other, because on the opposite side from the park and community center is a little strip mall with a couple of restaurants and a 7-Eleven and some shopping. So there's a lot of foot traffic that uses your community as a shortcut in getting over there. It's mostly foot traffic. Vehicle traffic isn't an issue. So in addition to that, there's been a recent spike in bicycle and other petty thefts from open garages and front yards of homes. And that's been a noticeable spike in the past 3 to 6 months. And those are occurring both at day and nighttime. There are several known but unreported, as far as we know, incidents of package thefts from the front doorsteps of people's homes, and those typically are occurring during the daytime. And periodically, there are uninvited door-to-door solicitors coming through the community. You know, the kids trying to put themselves through college selling magazines or selling cleaning products or whatever they're selling. But you have you have unsolicited, uninvited door-to-door solicitors. And very few in doing your research, you've found that very few of these incidents have even been reported to the local police. So that's the problem we have. The homelessness, people cutting through the property, thefts, and solicitors. And, it is a problem in that very few incidents are reported to the police. So, Connor, we're going to go to the assessment stage. So we've gotten this taken care of. Now we're going to assess what we can do. So we evaluate and assess our potential actions. So in here, I mentioned 3 subcategories down there on the 3rd bullet point. So environmental design, I typically call that systems, but environmental design is a crime prevention tactic. It's called CPTED. So it's crime prevention through environmental design. So that's one of the subcategories. That's things. So as we'll see in a minute, the things are alarms, gates, fences, security cameras, the landscaping. It's things that you can do to enhance security and deter criminal activity. And then the second subcategory is security services, and that's actually going out and hiring a security company to either patrol through your community or to have a fixed post at your community. And typically those security services are pretty much, in my opinion, they're very specific to certain communities. It's super expensive to hire security companies. Here, I actually live in Reno, and I live in a community association here. And our security services, we have 2 entries with gates at both entries. So we have fixed post security guards and then periodic patrols. And our security contract is more than half of our annual community budget. So, security services are something that boards really need to take a hard look at before they jump and engage. And then the third one is community engagement. And that's the one I really, really like, because community engagement strategies are typically, as you will see in a minute, are typically very inexpensive. They involve people in the community. They help to develop a sense of community, and they're very effective in reduction of crime. So in step 2 of our assessment at our Pleasant Shores HOA, let's talk here a little bit about the issues that we identified in step 2. So step 3 is our assessment. So we have uncontrolled access to the community by vehicle and on foot at street entrances, which are normally used by non-residents as a shortcut. There's no signage in any of the entries, so we've gone around and we've done a survey of our community. We walk around, and there's no signage. There's nothing that says, "Hey, this is private property." There's nothing that says no trespassing. There's nothing that indicates the no solicitation. And there's nothing that says, hey, this community is engaged in watching, like neighborhood watch signs or those kind of things. So our entries are pretty sterile. There's nothing there. And we walked around at nighttime, and we assessed our lighting throughout the community, which our lighting is actually pretty good. It's adequate. But we found a number of light fixtures with either burnout bulbs or they're not functioning for whatever reason. So, we've got lighting there, but a lot of the lighting is not operational. So again, we have no monitoring or access controls at our street entrances. There really isn't any community engagement strategy. So this community, they do have a next door group that kind of communicates informally back and forth. There's a monthly newsletter that goes out to all the owners and residents. There's no committees, no safety and security committee or some committee to help address these issues and help with information dissemination. And there's no neighborhood watch or similar program. And when we did our walkthrough, we noticed some landscaping overgrowth in areas that could be used to hide or to avoid detection, possibly appealing to homeless people, possibly appealing to criminal element. So we noticed the landscaping overgrowth. We have no security company. There's no security patrols. And we know from experience that the police pretty infrequently will patrol through the neighborhood or through the community. Let's see here. So the next one thing that I always do with my communities or my clients is I always take a look at their CC&Rs, because a lot of times your CC&Rs and rules will have antiquated language in there that prohibits homeowners from doing certain things that may help reduce crime and or deter crime. So and a lot of that is, hey, you can't replace your doorbell with a Ring doorbell. You can't put cameras on the outside of your home and monitor your driveways, your front doors, and those kind of things. So in this community, we noticed that there's nothing in the CC&Rs that prohibit any of that. So we don't really have to deal with that. And then one of the biggest things is this community, Pleasant Shores, has a little bit of reserve funding that could be used for security enhancements, but not enough to put in a holistic security camera system or vehicle gates at the uncontrolled entrances. So we just don't have the funding to the resource to put in security gates and cameras and stuff at this point in time. So that's our assessment. So Connor, if we could hit the next slide. So here's a slide on that crime prevention through environmental design. And we're talking here, some of the things: lighting, perimeter controls, access controls, security locks, video surveillance, the landscaping, key inventory and key control. If you've got, keys that are out there that, maybe the resident who sold the house to somebody 5 years ago still has a key to pool areas or whatever. And it's important that you have a good understanding of your key inventory and key control systems. Mail kiosks and package deliveries are always a big deal. And we talked about CC&Rs. So that's the kind of crime prevention through environmental design, or the systems piece. The next one I think is security. We don't really already address this, but if you're thinking that, hey, maybe we could hire a security guard to come through, I would you definitely want to go out and get put together a holistic request for proposals, and then you want to get a number of proposals from different companies, but they tend to be pretty expensive because when you're hiring somebody, you commit to that ad infinitum if you're gonna have security into the future. So it tends to get really expensive. And then next is our community engagement piece. So as I said, community engagement, and we're going to talk a lot about this when we get into our planning for how we're going to address our community's problems. Typically it's the least expensive strategy. It facilitates community building. And what I find in many cases, it gets the best results. It really does. A watchful and engaged community is palpable from the outside, is what I always tell people. So if you're somebody across the street and you can see people watching, and you walk through the community once and somebody comes out of their house and asks if they can help you, and hey, this is private property, you're going to have to go around, those kind of things. That is palpable, and it really does get, in most cases, I have to say that, in most cases, the results, you get the results that you're hoping for. Connor, let's go to the next. We can go through the next 4 or 5, because this is just detailed community engagement strategies. So if you want to go through to the next step, Connor, which would be the developing a plan. So we're taking the information from the problem identification and then the assessment that we did, or that somebody did. Then we want to come back and we want to develop a comprehensive security plan based on the information we got in steps 1 and 2. It's going to be tailored to our specific community needs, because what Pleasant Shores needs isn't exactly what the community down the street needs. Every community is unique and has their own specific needs. So, we're going to tailor our plan to best fit our needs. And a lot of times we talk about as in this scenario, Pleasant Shores doesn't have the funding right now to put in gates across the driveways, to put in security cameras or cameras at the entrances to monitor and record people coming in and out. But if that's something that we decide that we want to do, we can always come up with a plan that's not going to be executed right away, but it could be implemented over a 5-year period, say, or a 3-year period. So it's easier for the board to sell to the community. You may not need to do huge special assessments, those kind of things. And then when we develop a security plan, that plan should really be a written document so that it memorializes the process. It's something that stays in association records so that the board 5 years from now, who the board today is, most of them don't even live there anymore. And you've got a new board 5 years from now, and now they're dealing with an uptick in crime or whatever. Then it just gives a little bit of historical perspective down the road if somebody needs it. And part of this process is developing a budget and timelines and selection of your actions and prioritizing those. And as we've talked about, or as I've talked about, because you can't talk, this can be implemented as a single project or phased in over a period of time. And that last thing, very, very important. The board needs to approve this at a board meeting. That memorializes it. I think it's really important that you say, hey, the board has done this. Here's our report. We're going to make it public to everybody in the community that wants to see it. And we've approved it. And this is our plan of action. But having it as a formally approved, a board approved project makes a big difference down the road, especially if anybody questions what the board have done. So in our scenario, what we're going to do here, we as a board, the 115 of us, have decided here's what our plan is going to be. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to place signage at the entrances to the community, and it's going to be conspicuously placed so that it's noticeable. People aren't going to miss it when they're coming in. That, hey, Pleasant Shores is a private community. We don't allow trespassing. We don't allow solicitors. And what we're gonna do down the road here too is we're gonna get engaged in some kind of neighborhood watch program or whatever the programs are that your local police department offers. And they typically have little signs that you put out, and hey, we're gonna put up signs that we're a neighborhood watch community and we watch out for each other. So that's one thing we want to do. Fairly easily done, fairly inexpensive. And so we decided, yeah, we're gonna put signage on at the street entrances. The other thing that we as a board want to do is we want to form a safety and security committee. And we want to recruit engaged community volunteers. We want engaged community volunteers to be part of this committee, because what their task is going to be is to, from their perspective or from their task, will be to engage the entire community in safety and security endeavors for the community. I did see a comment just come up that signs don't work. You may think so. I've had a lot of clients, and they do in some cases. A lot of times they don't. They do in some cases. But the other thing, the additional thing with signage, especially trespassing signage, if you have signs up and somebody trespasses, then you can take action to get them removed. So it's fairly inexpensive, and you may think it doesn't work, but there are reasons for doing it, and it does deter some things. So so the other thing in the plan that we're going to do, we are going to make sure that we repair and maintain all of our common area lighting. And that would include periodic inspections. We're probably going to task our safety and security committee with going out monthly and inspecting all of the exterior lighting at our community to make sure that they're functional and they're operating properly. And probably again through the safety and security committee, we're going to implement a community education and engagement program. So we're going to have community meetings. We're going to talk about the crimes. We're going to put information about what criminal activity is occurring in the newsletter. We're going to put information on Nextdoor or whatever social media platform your community uses. We're going to do all of that. We're going to educate our community and let them know that they are part of the solution. It's their job to be vigilant, to be engaged, and to help us, alleviate or mitigate the crime and trespassing and homelessness problems that we've been experiencing. We're going to, here's another thing. I already mentioned it, but formally, we're gonna contact the local police. We're gonna find out, number one, if they have a neighborhood watch program, or if they have neighborhood resource officers or whatever they're gonna call them, that will come out and meet with us and talk with us about, hey, these are problems that we're experiencing out here. What can we do to mitigate them, and what can we do to partner with the police department in helping us address these? So the community engagement is going to be a big piece here, and we're gonna work with our landscaper to fix the landscaping problems and to ensure that in their ongoing maintenance of our landscaping, that they are actually, keeping the landscaping where it is not inviting to criminals or other people who want to go undetected. And in general, I'm trying to think what the general crime prevention thing is for landscaping. So trees, You want to make sure that trees, the lowest branches are 5 feet, 4 to 5 feet off the ground. You don't want anything lower than 4 to 5 feet. And for hedges and shrubs, they should be up a foot or two and should technically not be, or you should try to not have them taller than, say, 2.5, 3 feet. And you definitely don't want them where they're tall enough covering windows and doors and that kind of thing to give concealment to somebody who's going to try to climb through a window or break through a door. But landscaping is an important piece of this to, just keep an eye in your community and make sure that it's not creating a scenario where it's inviting to people that don't belong there. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to work with the delivery companies. Typically, your communities, our community here at Pleasant Shores, we have the same UPS guy 5 days a week. We have the same FedEx guy. We have the same mailbox guy. The Amazon guys kind of change around every once in a while. But you know what? If we can catch them and tell them, hey, we're starting to see that, we're getting package thefts over here and those kind of things. So make them aware. Because a lot of times these people doing package thefts are kind of following the drivers around. And the drivers themselves are trained to keep an eye out for that. But they need to know that, hey, we've had a couple incidents of package thefts. But the other thing is we want to educate our residents and try to get our residents to coordinate deliveries with those delivery companies. So, hey, don't deliver it until after 4:30 or 5 o'clock, or deliver on a Saturday, or deliver it. You can have Amazon delivered to the lockers at grocery stores and those kind of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to impact the package theft issue by dealing with the delivery folks and having an educated community. So those were, as far as our plan, that's basically it for right now. This is the immediate plan that we're gonna implement, and we're going to give this a little bit of time to see what results we have. So Connor, if we could go to the implementation slide, step 4, and so you execute your plan. And typically in that, the board will assign, roles and responsibilities. Okay. You have to have, somebody has to be responsible for reporting back and those kind of things. And you have a number of people that you can assign to do stuff. You've got your board, you got your committee. Most of us, I would assume, are professionally managed. So you've got your property manager, and potentially even vendors, like we talked about, contacting UPS and FedEx and the delivery companies, and kind of engaging them and fixing our problem as well. And then during this implementation stage, we finalize the expectations, timelines, and deliverables. So hey, what we want to do, what we want to accomplish is we want to minimize people walking through our community. We don't want, we don't want neighbors from down the street cutting through our community to get over to the shopping center or get over to the park on the other side. We want to eliminate any homelessness on our property, and we want to dissuade the homeless again from using our community as a walkthrough. That may be a little difficult. We want to eliminate, we don't want any more thefts from people's garages. People leaving their garages open and bicycles being stolen and packages off of the front porch. We want to eliminate that altogether. And that can be done a number of ways. I mean, that's part of the community engagement thing. Hey, you don't want your bike stolen, close your garage door. So, part of our plan is to eliminate those thefts altogether. And then the package thefts, and we don't want solicitors anymore. Solicitors is, that's one of those quality of life things, but sometimes those folks, in my experience, I've had it happen a bunch of times. The door-to-door solicitors, nobody answers the door, and the next thing you know, they're inside burglarizing the house. So, you want to dissuade that in any way possible. And most of your communities, and especially the community where Pleasant Shores is located, has restrictions and prohibitions on soliciting. So we can deal with that through the police as well. And then a big part of this, as we've talked about, the communication with the community is huge. What are you going to do? What are the results? What are the timelines? And then give periodic feedback. Hey, you know what? In the past month, we haven't had any bicycle thefts, and we haven't had, there's only been a few people walking through, no package thefts, and no incidents of solicitors, those kind of things. And so that's part of this executing the plan. So the next phase of this, we're making pretty good time. So the next phase is going to be the evaluation and assessment piece. So again, we've implemented our plan. We've got the rockin' the best safety and security committee. They're doing great. They've got the community engaged. They've implemented see something, say something. Community members are making contact with people walking through the community and telling them, hey, it's private property. The signs are up. Everything is implemented and working well. So now we're down the road, and part of what we do in this step is, hey, did the implementation go as planned? Did we deliver the desired results? And then there's the two. If yes, then continue to monitor. If no, then return to step one, and you're going to do this whole evaluation process again. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got the ongoing process of the evaluation and assessment. So then we take corrective action, obviously, if it didn't work. And then again, one of the biggest keys to all of this is communication. Keep your community informed. So for Pleasant Shores Homeowners Association, we were monitoring throughout the period, but after 3 months, here's what we've determined. So we do a 3-month assessment. So in this period, many homeowners and residents have installed video doorbells and outdoor video cameras. So monitoring their yards, their driveways, their backyards, those kind of things. It's very noticeable and tends to dissuade criminal activity. Not always, but tends to. We have our safety committee. They're up and running, and they're running like a smoothly oiled machine. The community engagement is noticeably better. We've coordinated with the local police department, and we've implemented a neighborhood watch program with the police. We're working in cooperation with them, and they're even starting to patrol the neighborhood more. They drive through, way more often than they had been before we started working with them. We've eliminated the thefts, and we're still having periodic issues with homeless and other non-resident pedestrian traffic passing through the community. So at this point in time, I'd say, hey, we've done fairly well with the entire plan, with the exception that, hey, people are still walking through and they shouldn't be walking through. So now your decision as a board, hey, do we go back and reassess this and make plans for us reassessing this scenario or this problem? And what can we do? So the board decides, yes, let's reassess this and look at things that we can possibly do. You know, we've tried the no trespassing signs. We've tried private property. That doesn't work for everybody. We've worked with the police, and the police are going to tell us, you know what, we're not going to come out and arrest somebody for trespassing for walking through your property. So the reality is we come back together and the board goes back to that initial assessment phase, and you know, they develop a plan. So what the board has decided to do is to install a basic security system that monitors the two entrances to the community, and there's infrastructure there that has power and a place to monitor cameras. The cameras will have, you know, they'll be wireless to a recording device. So the board's decided to do that. That's not so expensive that they can't use existing funds to put in a couple of cameras. And then the board has also decided that we're going to reassess this. We're going to get the cameras up and we're going to reassess in 3 months. And if this problem hasn't been resolved, then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to contact some contractors and see what we can do about putting in vehicle gates to control access in and out of the community. So the board has now a stepped plan. They're going to do the cameras, and then if need be, they're going to do gates. But if they're going to do gates, it's going to be a need to budget for those gates. And so, you know, they may have to do a special assessment if the gates need to go in right away, or if they say, hey, you know what, it's going to cost around this much money, and we can do it through small HOA dues increases and funneling that money into the into reserves over a period of 2 or 3 years, and then we can do it then. Yeah, the board has done that. So what they've actually done is they've gone back, they've modified the plan, and they're going to go through the entire process of implementing the plan, you know, and again, doing the step 5, the evaluate, assess, and modify once the cameras are in. And then down the road, maybe having to do the gates, or even look at having a, you know, security company, you know, periodically come through and drive through the community, or do walkthroughs at the community to attempt to dissuade the, you know, pass through or cut through pedestrian traffic. So that's pretty much the scenario for Pleasant Shores HOA. Next slide, Connor. So in doing this as a homeowners association, I mean, you know, I mentioned early on, you can do a lot of this yourselves, and you have a lot of resource within your communities. But there are a number of folks that can help you with this. Your community managers are probably the first place you want to go. They have some experience with this, and they also have the contact lists for the other professionals. So you've got security companies, you know, private security that you can contact and you know, find out what they can do for you. You've got local law enforcement, as in our case here. We engaged local law enforcement, and you know, that partnership seems to be working well. You can talk to vendors, which security professionals are, but you can talk to your vendors. You can talk to the contractors, fencing contractors, alarm companies, video companies, those kind of things, and get strategies and costs from them. They can help you through the process. They can even help you write requests for proposals and specs for certain projects. You definitely want to rely on any community members that you have with specialized knowledge. However, there's a caveat to that. Just because they have specialized knowledge doesn't make them an expert in your specific community needs. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like the board that has the board member that's an attorney but doesn't practice HOA law, but the board relies on that person for guidance for HOA law. That's not a good path to go down. So just realize that you have community members that may have specialized knowledge, but they're not always the top expert. And and then you have community or security consultants that a message just popped up in front of it. So you have security consultants, somebody like me, or like I used to be, because I'm pretty much retired now. But you want to make sure that they're familiar with community associations. Because as you all know, being board members, your community association isn't like work or a neighborhood that doesn't have an HOA or anything else. It's unique, and there are certain things that security consultants need to understand. They need to understand your limitations financially. They need to understand, hey, let's take a look at your CC&Rs and your rules and find out if there's anything in there that's hindering those kind of things. But this is a pretty good starting group of people that you can go to if you have questions or specific needs for your community and you want a little more guidance. Next, Connor. Oh, we're through about 7 minutes early.
Yeah, good job, Tom. Man, that was super fast.
Well, yeah, I think, well, that's good. I had planned on 60 minutes and 30 minutes of Q&A, but I'm ready to take questions.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's go, and we have a couple things we want to do. Connor,
Okay.
Are you ready? So I have a couple things I'd like, and a couple of announcements. First of all, this is our Q&A session, and we are sponsored by the Heritage Bank of Commerce and Silver Creek Association Management. So those are our sponsors today. Thank you so much for being our sponsors. Please use the thumbs up icon in the upper right corner of the question and answer feature. You'll see that there. You can use the down caret to get your priorities. Instead of being chronological, it'll be by number of thumbs up. We're going to ask you to do that. But before we do that, here's a little curveball for you, Tom. Connor and I prepared a quick survey about HOAs and the amount of crime. So Connor, if you have that, why don't you go and put it up while people vote and vote. So let's go ahead and do that.
Hey,
There you go. Does that
about 15 more seconds or so.
okay. Tom, does that surprise you?
What's that?
The poll.
I'm not seeing it.
You don't see it? Okay. Oh, that's right. You're on the panel. You don't.
He's a panelist.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm just a panelist.
It's basically even across the way, except for number 4, which is it's not a big problem, but it's just under a big problem. So out of 5. but it's pretty even. I'm actually surprised with the group.
There you go. I just shared it onto the screen so everyone should be able to see the results.
Wow,
Yep. In
that's
chat, I'd like to-
pretty. I would have expected to see 2, 3s, and 4s.
Yeah, 2, 3. I'd like to have people put in chat the nature of the crime that they're seeing and their biggest concerns, so that we have some benchmarks on that, and we can share that with everybody, of course, when you put it in chat. But in the meantime, I think we'll go ahead and go to the Q&A feature, which I need to pull up. Give me a second. And I will go to the most votes, upvotes, because we have a lot of votes here and a lot of questions. So I think Tom will be able to get through most of these questions today. Meg Best, what role do cameras play in the prevention of criminal activity?
So, I think most people will tell you not much. But what they do is they record the criminal activity. So then you've got evidence to provide to the police for investigating the criminal activity. I think, I remember years and years ago, we used to have video cameras, and then they'd sell dummy cameras and all that stuff, and they had the little red light and they weren't working. And I think cameras, may have some dissuasive. They may dissuade some people, but for the most part they don't. But it does actually memorialize that criminal activity, and it's information that can be used by the police in pursuing prosecution. Hope that answered the question for you.
I assume there's a difference. I have a couple questions myself on this. I assume it depends on the nature of your community too. So if you're a high rise in the Tenderloin, it may be a little different than if you're Sunny Lakes HOA out in the desert.
It might very well. It just depends. It depends on the issues you're trying to fix. I mean, as you all see, I mean, all the cameras and stuff in retail stores and everything else, and you see all the looting and everything that's going on. They wear hoodies, they cover their faces and everything else. Yeah. So, the criminals will pretty quickly will adjust and make changes when there are cameras there. However, for most of the quality of life things, like the discussion we had today, people traipsing through your community and coming in and doing petty crimes and those kind of things, it may have a little more dissuasive results than for higher level of crimes and the criminal actors who are doing those crimes.
So there's a risk to having cameras too, right? I mean, I've gotten calls from people that are concerned about privacy issues, and there have been concerns about people having illicit relationships and their cameras are being taking a picture of the people driving in and out and things like that. And those are serious concerns. Can you speak a little bit to the downside of having those cameras?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, if you're in a public place, I think everybody's expectation nowadays is there's a camera watching you. The expectations of privacy, but as a board, if you're going to authorize cameras, well, let's look at this two ways. Number one, we're the board, we're placing cameras and we're going to record activity. If a board puts in cameras, I always recommend that before the cameras become functional, that the board develop a comprehensive policy for the use of the data on the cameras, who has access to it, how long the data is going to be stored, and what it can be used for. Because like you said, Dave, we have cameras at our entrances to our community, and we have cameras by the pool, and we have cameras here and there. And I think my husband may not be faithful and I want you to go through there and I want to see if a certain car came in, do you give a homeowner access to that? Or do you have a policy that says the camera data will only be used under subpoena or turned over to the police in a criminal investigation? Something like that. You have to control that. You can't just put in cameras and think, okay, yeah, cool. Too many communities have done that and suffered the consequences. So that's for the board side. And then for the homeowner side, you can go to Costco or any electronics store and buy a whole house alarm system with cameras for a couple $100, and they're wireless cameras, and you put them in your backyard. There has to be, there are invasion of privacy issues. You don't want your cameras high enough where neighbors in their shower can look out a window and see the camera, those kind of things. It's just, and some of it is common sense, but dealing, a lot of times we're not dealing with common sense, or people just don't think about those things. They have no intent of using it, but the person on the other end is thinking, hey, you're invading my privacy. So, development of good policies and rules for installation of those kind of security devices and getting those rules approved by the board and enacted is really important. You're muted, Dave.
That's my cough here. So Phyllis says something in the chat section here where she says cameras are passive and require monitoring. So I think that's probably a good word to the wise. Thank you for that, Phyllis.
So
and,
let me address that, Dave.
Sure.
So that's one thing you can do, and I worked on a security detail where we had over 100 cameras on a residential property, but that's way the exception and not the norm where they're monitored. So in order to deter crime or catch crime while it's occurring, yes, they need to be monitored. Hugely expensive. Most communities use cameras to capture evidentiary data for the police to use in criminal prosecutions later.
Mm-hmm. Are they used also for rules violations?
That's gonna have to be a board policy. That's
right. Well,
that has to be written in that policy, but and who has access? I mean, who has access to the data and who maintains the data for how long?
Well, you see the next question here from Art Alfaro. Are there rules and guidelines for using cameras and for monitoring? I think you talked a lot about that one, but if you have anything to add, that'd be great.
I really don't know about rules and guidelines as far as official, like legal stuff. I have been an expert in several cases with cameras that are placed near schools and those kind of things. And there's no real law against doing it. But there's nothing that says you're not going to get mired in litigation as well by somebody who thinks that they've been wronged or their privacy is being invaded. But
yeah, so as
far as rules or guidelines, you may have to talk to your HOA attorney and find out.
Yeah, that was going to be my recommendation. Make sure you talk to your attorney. If you're thinking about putting in cameras, talk to your attorney and just make sure it's all up to snuff for your community and your location as well. The term they like to use is a reasonable expectation of privacy. So that's really, when you think about that, is there a reasonable expectation of privacy when you take that? For example, in the front yard, there's a reasonable expectation of not being private. So that camera can take a picture. If you have, as Gail says here, you're in a public street in front of your house, there's not a reasonable expectation for privacy. But in the back room and in the backyard with a fence around it and plants, Yeah, there's probably a reasonable expectation for privacy. Clearly, the bedrooms and bathrooms are a reasonable expectation for privacy. And if the camera happens to pick those up, then you have a problem. Now, I'm not an attorney. I'm going to add that really quickly, but that's the term that I've heard when we've had these other programs. Okay, let's move on to the anonymous attendee. And we have 9 upvotes for him or her. If an HOA cannot afford to hire a security guard or a security patrol company, what can they do to prevent homeless people from camping out in front of their building and sneaking into the garage? This HOA is located in a major urban environment in a dangerous community. And I know this homeless or unhoused issue has really just mushroomed lately in the last several years. What do we do about that?
That is a difficult question, and from reading this, I'm assuming that sneaking into the garage would be like a common garage. It's a parking area as opposed to a 2-car garage on a home. With it's and I'm hoping that garage is somehow secured with gates, or it's just not one that they can just walk into. But what can you do? Even if you have a security patrol company, what are you going to do if you have somebody who continually comes into your garage, continually trespasses, and refuses to leave or vacate when they're asked to by somebody who's in charge of the property? You know what? I mean, the only thing you can do, and I know it's difficult nowadays, things have changed. I've been out of law enforcement for 14 years and things have changed a lot. But, something like that, you got to call your local police and see if they'll respond out and deal with the issue. You don't want them in your garage, and even if they're just taking up residence there for a night or to get out of the rain or whatever. But it's, typically that leads to other criminal activity and crimes of opportunity. But my suggestion is that call the local police and see if they'll respond and handle the problem for you.
Yeah, I noted in an earlier chat that one of the participants said that they've called the police and they've told them they will not respond unless there's a weapon involved. And so, we're running into this resource allocation issue as well. So it's a social ill, and it's going to be very difficult to solve these issues. Well, the one thing
very difficult. Because it's like a revolving door. But the way the system is now, and it's changed a lot since I was doing the job. But everybody's short-staffed, and the incidence of violent crime is so high that unfortunately the police don't have the bandwidth to actively respond to, especially in larger urban cities, respond to quality of life crime.
Yeah, I asked earlier to put in chat what types of crime people are seeing, and most of the types of crime are not life-threatening. They're mostly issues of boosting cars or stealing catalytic converters. I'm seeing here, there's a whole bunch of just petty crimes and burglaries that you're seeing. Trespass, of course, in underground garages with the homeless. Those are the type of things we're seeing. There's one here that says shootings on the street, which pretty difficult to deal with. That one you probably would get the police to show up. So
I would think they would show up for that.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you to the anonymous for that. Let's go to the next question here with 10 upvotes. Let's see, with 9 upvotes. My community parking lot uses security cameras. They only work when someone recognizes the bad person. I want license plate cameras on each entrance. What's the issue with license plate readers? Do you see any issue?
So license plate LPR technology versus, for the police, we use license plate readers, but we have access to the databases. We can find out whose car it is. And, find out who was driving the car, those kind of things that private communities don't have access to. I think what you're talking about is maybe you may just need to upgrade the quality of your cameras in the parking lot, where they will pick up with some degree of detail license plate information. Because in general, communities and community members don't have access to the data for those license plates and stuff. And you can go down to the DMV and fill out a form and say you want the information on the vehicle, that kind of thing. It's a cumbersome process, and you're not going to do it often. And I think there's a cost associated. But if your cameras are capturing with some detail, vehicle description, vehicle color, license plate data, then basically you're going to turn that over to the police. So a specific license plate reader system is one that is connected to the databases and provides a lot of information to the police that the general public doesn't have access to. But good cameras are definitely something you want to look into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good answer. Peter PC did ask is it legal for security cameras to capture license plates? I think we answered that. Yes, Peter. But your second question does it have risk? Yes, it has risk, and you need to probably make sure that's very clear in your governing documents, and you should ask your attorney to help you with that, to make sure you don't capture any of that information that you don't want. I've heard of some instances, and I think Tom, you covered on this, and I'm going to reiterate it, is where there's been a problem in a community because the camera caught something that wasn't supposed to be happening, and a community member went and tried to get the information. So the policy has to be very carefully written so that it is only available for whatever the board wants it to be available for. So you just don't release it to everybody. That'll protect you somewhat.
So
let's
Dave,
go to
let me ask you, does ECHO have any resource for policies for video cameras yet?
Not yet. It would be nice to do it. Now that we have our new resource website up, we're starting to update it. We put one of yours in there for interview questions for new management firms. We would love to have some of these examples of these policies so that we can make them available to our membership. That would be awesome to do something.
Okay. Yeah, that may be something that you might be able to task me with, trying to find some of those. I don't know.
That'd be awesome if we could get it. I'm
okay.
Sure.
Great.
Okay, Gary, what can you do if the police do not respond? They are understaffed, and unless there is an immediate danger, you are asked to file a report online and just be done with it. So I added the just be done with it. So
just be done with it. Now,
yeah.
that's a tough thing, Gary. It hurts me to see that they're not responding to stuff, but the reality is that they're so busy chasing other stuff and the staffing issues and everything else going on. You kind of have to understand that. So, you know what? I mean, if the problems that your community is experiencing are such that it's ongoing, it's quality of life stuff, and the catalytic converters are getting stolen, bicycles are getting stolen, whatever, combination of those, and it may be time to go back to that systems piece where you're looking at hiring a security company to either spend full time on your property or spend limited time, periodic patrols, that kind of thing. You can get that. But unfortunately, the state of the society that we're in now, a lot of times the police won't come to quality of life crimes, which is sad.
So Tom, I'm just curious, What about community watches? Or do those work, or is that maybe a community is seeing that, maybe if they just walk around a little more and they have a jacket on or something, I don't know. Just
Yeah. No, like I said earlier in the presentation, if an engaged community is palpable and people see that, they experience it. So, it's like, okay, let's say there's the homeless guy who's in the garage, and a couple of people tell him, hey, you're gonna have to leave, this private property, you're gonna have to go. And every time they're there, somebody, maybe even somebody different engages them and says, hey, can I help you? You're on private property, where are you going? That kind of thing. People tend to, over time, they'll stay away. So yes, community engagement, like I said, if you can get your community, now you don't want your community members going out on a limb, exposing themselves to, potential for harm, assaults, that kind of thing. But it's all about how you do it. If you have people, that you don't recognize that are walking through your community or going door to door or whatever it is, if you walk up to them and go, hi, how are you? Can I help you find something or whatever? That gets around. And if it's not just one person in the community, but if it's a number of people, or in perfect world, everybody in the community, which we know doesn't happen. I think, it's cheap, and those community engagement efforts tend to have pretty good results, especially on the quality of life crime stuff.
Would you suggest that people report the crime to the board so that they keep tallies on what's going on, so that people know, and then maybe report out in their newsletters? Because I'm sure your newsletters will get read if this is a true problem.
Oh yeah, everybody reads every newsletter they get, right?
Well, they do if there's
But-
crime statistics are in there. I think that would do it.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's one thing we talked about earlier. Use everything you got. So don't just report it to the board. Put it on Nextdoor. Put it on your community website, whatever social media you have. I mean, the more information exchange that you have between yourself and your neighbors, the better. 100%. So yes, I would use every available option to get that information shared amongst my neighbors.
Okay, so I think we answered Gary's question. And then let's go to this anonymous question, which is kind of interesting. How do you handle vandalism by a community member? I think there's got to be processes for that, right?
Wow. Yeah, I'd like to have a little more information on that, but let's just deal with this. We handle vandalism by a community member. So I'm assuming that Dave and I are neighbors, and I don't like Dave too much, and Dave sees me kick over his mailbox or something. Who knows? I mean, there are a number of ways to deal with it. Boards typically don't want to get involved with those kind of things, especially if it's vandalism to somebody else's property. Now, if this person is vandalizing community property, that's the board's role. And the board, as the governing body for your community association, would decide how they're going to do that. Are there opportunities to sanction a community member and to require them to repair the damage they've done? Do you pursue criminal prosecution? There are a number of avenues you can take. This one is one with a caveat. The board, especially if the community is the victim, you probably want to get some input from your legal folks before you do anything on this. Now, if it's neighbor versus neighbor and it's vandalism, I mean, if Dave kicks over my mailbox and I want to call the police and pursue prosecution, I have every right in the world to do that. Or I go to the board and say, hey, Dave kicked over my mailbox, and maybe the board would refer us out for some kind of arbitration or some type of intervention. But if it's between neighbors, there's really not a whole lot that your community association can do to intervene. Now, if the community association is the victim of the vandalism, then there's things the board can do.
Okay, so we only have a few minutes left here, Tom. I know you said you'd be willing to stay a couple of minutes longer, so we'll take advantage of that. So let's go kind of rapid fire through some of these questions, because there's a lot of them left. And Holly here has a question about how to, it's the same 15 people that keep attending their community watch or their neighborhood watch. How do you suggest I get more people involved in 1 minute or less?
Just keep pushing. That's a difficult thing. It's with any community association and most things in life. There's a small handful of people that are going to jump in and take the reins, and there's a larger group that's going to let everybody else do the work for them. So, I would say that 15 people can make a difference, and if they can increase it to 16, awesome. But you got to keep trying.
Yeah, and I also think giving them more information, you mentioned that earlier, is a good thing in the newsletter, so they know what the crime is, because a lot of people don't even realize that it's a problem. Okay,
correct.
So let's go to Holly's second question here. Do no trespassing and private property signs work?
Not in most cases, but they're so inexpensive that it's something that I would recommend any community to do. Now, the other thing is they are a requirement. If at some point in time down the road, you need to involve the police and you're going to prosecute somebody for trespassing, there are sign requirements. So you need to have those.
Okay. And Barbara Robinson asked a question about homeless again. How do you keep them from rooting through your trash cans? Weekly trash cans for whatever. You know what? I think this is a good question for the chat room as well. So if anybody has a solution for preventing homeless people from going through the trash, it might be a good idea to put that into chat and help out Barbara. We can pass on that. Do you have anything you want to say real quick?
Not really. That's a difficult problem.
Okay. And then Vicky Harvey, we had young people climbing the fence to use our pool, and they didn't live here. I took photos. Is it illegal for me to take the photos?
No, they're committing a crime. They're trespassing. They're committing a crime, and it's 100% okay to take photos of that to memorialize it for later use if need be.
Yeah, and so here's a question about abandoned vehicles. That's really not a crime. That's an administrative infraction. There are rules for that, and I think we'll deal with that in a different program.
Yes.
Lisa asked about security cameras. They stole our server for the camera, so that's ironic, right?
Now a lot of it is cloud-based, so
yeah. So that's the workaround, right? So it goes to the
right.
An anonymous attendee asks about the expense of cameras. It says cameras are costly and they require regular maintenance. An association that decides to go with camera system should include it in the reserve study, or should they include it in the reserve study?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Because the technology changes so often that you need to maintain those. You need to replace those, as technology grows. So it's definitely a reserve thing. It wouldn't be in your operational budget by any means. So yeah, I would definitely throw that in there. Okay.
So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this up right now and do my final comments and have Connor do his, and let me move some stuff around here. And if we have a little time left over, we'll go ahead and have Tom give his presentation. I'm sorry, my script is I can't seem to bring up my script. So give me a second here. And just 1 second as I find it. Anyway, well, I'll just go off script here. I want to say thank you to everybody for attending, especially to our sponsors, Heritage Bank of Commerce, Silver Creek, and and especially to Tom for coming today. If you're not a member of ECHO, I'm going to ask that, we appreciate you coming today, and we hope that you'll join ECHO and become a member and participate with us. All you need to do is go to our website, and on the website, we at www.echo-ca.com, you'll find our program, and you'll be able to sign up right there. We've got it all automated now. Hopefully it's all working, and it's ready to go for you. I would like to also say thank you to all of our members who support us and have supported us for all these years. We really couldn't do this without you. We appreciate everything that you do and for your membership. And if you have a little extra time, we'd like to have, and you'd like to volunteer with ECHO, I'm sure you have a lot of extra time to do that, but we are looking for people who are willing to help us. We have some membership development opportunities. We definitely need people to help with the board members club. We have moderators for those events, and we'd like to have some substitute moderators. Tom is one of our leaders. He's the co-chair of the board members club. Tom, you want to say a little word about that?
Yeah, I was going to jump in on you there anyway, but so for those of you, I assume that most of you on this call are board members in your communities, and if you're not aware of or already involved in the board members club, I highly recommend that you take a look into it. So the board members club, we formed 18 months ago, Dave, or so, and it was the brainchild of our chair, Miguel Sanchez, and the idea is that once a month we meet for 90 minutes in facilitated small groups. I'm one of the facilitators, and we discuss important topics that in the business, in the HOA board and HOA leadership business. And the topics change every month, but it's a peer-to-peer sharing platform. So it's not like me sitting up here and I'm not, I'm not the talking head that you're listening to for 90 minutes. It's groups of board members that are put together that discuss, kind of a scripted set of issues that we deal with each month. Coming up in October, we're going to do conducting and controlling or managing board meetings, which, if you're on a board, that can be a bear sometimes. So the board members club is free. You have to be an ECHO member. You have to be a current or past board member, and you cannot participate if you're you're excluded if you're a professional services provider, unless you're actually a board member and ECHO member. But I highly recommend it. Just check it out. Everybody that has participated always leaves with with information that is helpful for them in their job as a board member.
Yeah, and so Tom, the next meeting is going to be October 24th from 11:30 a.m. to or 11:30.
No. It's October 10th.
It's October 10th. Okay.
Yeah, from 5:30 to 7.
I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah, it's October 10th. So from 5:30 to 7 p.m. So we look forward to seeing you at that one. And then the South Bay, we're starting a new panel for the San Jose crowd and the South Bay crowd. This is a resource panel, and we're going to have an inaugural meeting on October 24th from 11:30 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. This is in person at the Heritage Bank of Commerce on the first floor in San Jose. It's right by the airport. It's a really great room and a convenient location. You do have to register for the meeting. Lunch is provided, and you'll have an opportunity to have crosstalk with a lot of folks. The meeting is going to be on landscaping and landscape maintenance, and Medallion Landscape is going to be doing the presentation. I've seen this presentation before, and it is really a good one. And they bring devices and things you can look at. And if landscaping is a big part of your budget, or even if it isn't, it's a great presentation. So our next board members club is October 10th, as we said, and the topic is controlling board meetings. So thank you all for participating today. I think Connor's going to have some conversation here with you in just a minute. If you want to join the Board Members Club, just send Connor an email at connor@echo-ca.org, and you'll learn more about the club and what it takes to participate. Once again, thank you to all of our sponsors for making the community conversation possible. And thank you to Tom for developing and presenting this material. And of course, thank you to all of you for attending and making today an important and successful event. ECHO certainly appreciates your investment in education to foster a better quality of life in HOA communities.